A successful GCC in India stands out by strategically aligning itself with the parent company and the long-term vision and the goals. Integration into the business is vital. It cannot be treated as an afterthought. If it is an integral part of the company and the operations, it can lead to enormous success. I would like, however, to just talk about what success looks like in a GCC, because
Sure.
when I joined the journey in 2004, the first couple of years, we had to learn very, very quickly and adapt and be flexible. And then over time, you develop this incredible skill set. And even today, I know many of the leaders of the India team by name. We created deep friendships, and I'm super proud of the team. But let me reflect just a little bit on what the success looked like, and then I'll talk a little bit about challenges. But a successful GCC in India stands out by strategically aligning itself with the parent company and the long-term vision and the goals. Okay, that is a given. That's the foundation. And this alignment ensures that all the employees in the GCC contribute meaningfully to the overarching strategy and plays a key role in driving business success, right? If people understand that, they can better align and do the job they're asked to do in synchronicity with that long-term strategy. Integration into the business is vital. It cannot be treated as an afterthought. Oh, it's just an office over there. It needs to be integrated. And if it is an integral part of the company and the operations, it can lead to enormous success. And then the other thing, it's attracting the right talent. As I mentioned earlier, there is a big talent pool, and the success depends on attracting and retaining and nurturing a skilled workforce that can meet these demands of the future. Equally important for success is also maintain strong governance and compliance. It requires a well-structured framework that ensures that the organization adheres to regulatory and legal and ethical standards, just like every other location around the world. So this roadmap of implementation is very critical to success. That being said, there are potential challenges that need to be overcome.
Astrid, if I could just interject and ask one question. You actually highlighted three pillars, if I understood that right. One is alignment with the parent organization and doing work which is truly value adding to the long-term strategy of what the organization, let's say the parent organization, wants to get done. The second is to get the talent and people strategy right, both attracting the right talent, developing the right talent. And then you talked about compliance and governance. But on the first pillar, Astrid, I've often seen, and now we're doing whatever work we're doing in terms of scaling GCCs in India, there is a misconception which I think it's evolved over a period of time. It starts off by, at times evaluating how do I look at cost arbitrage? How do I look at shared services? How do I look at just moving certain enterprise processes over and not necessarily thinking about like innovation, running edge technologies, or value realization work truly? What would your recommendation be that an organization looking at a capability center do on that pillar particularly before we go towards the challenges?
As I said, the alignment with the vision is important, right? So people know the work I do adds value to the company,
Right.
to the division, to the business unit. That is important for both sides, both parties, right?
Right.
The second piece here that you mentioned is the importance of collaborating outside the center with the organization, wherever it might be. In some cases, it's a central organization. In some cases, it's decentralized.
Right.
And what I've seen is of very critical importance is people need to be there to see it,
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
how it functions. And I often say seeing is believing. With so many PowerPoints, beautiful slides, and get them in front of somebody across somebody's desk. But when it comes down to when I took leaders with me to India to showcase not only the capability, but the competence
Right.
Not anybody has said, well, we could have done this somewhere else. Everybody was super impressed with the talent.
Right.
And as
Right.
you mentioned earlier, capability and competencies to me, they hang together.
Yeah.
Capability is breadth,
Right.
competency is depth. And if you
Right.
get those, the ability to add value is exponential.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any
Yeah.
business leader around the world would see the benefit of having a center like this, where you can build scale, you can flex, you have depth, you have breadth, and you have many choices to scale it like almost like an accordion, depending on the environment and the economy you operate. That is of essence. But what we can't forget is the third element of the talent,
Yeah.
investing in talent development. You know, it's not good enough to just have a center and leverage the center. You need to also be very intentional about investing in talent development and providing opportunities for people to grow in their career and fostering a culture of innovation.
Right.
And you mentioned the word innovation earlier. Innovation
Right.
comes in many different forms.
Right.
It should lead to either a competitive advantage or efficiency improvements, etc. And it could be done through digital transformation. It could be done so many different ways. And that's the essence of success.
Astrid, let's go over to the challenges then
Yeah.
that you saw in this journey.
Yeah. In the beginning of our journey, we brought these super talented individuals over, but they didn't have the experience in the space we were in. Yeah. I'm talking about an engineering GCC, right? They had to learn. They had to learn about the customers, the market, the competitors, the products, how to design a certain product. So we could not initially provide deep technical tasks to the organization. We started off with some mundane tasks. So imagine having an engineer who has a master's, a diploma, and the work they do is very mundane types of tasks. Okay. Well, that's not inspiring to that individual, right? And so the risk is you have high attrition rates. People sign up, they had a view of what the future would look like, and they come in and now they're shuffling papers or they do really mundane things. And so that can get frustrated to the organization in the initial phase. We worked very, very hard to change that by being there, by educating and explaining what needs to happen to learn and get up on that learning curve very, very quickly. And within a couple of years, this organization was doing research and development, not just maintaining, relationships or maintaining designs. And that is one thing that people need to think about. How do you make sure it's meaningful work that the GCC? And there is a second point. I think I said it that don't treat it as an afterthought or it's
Yeah.
them. That is a formula for disaster. It has to be somehow integrated. And the GCC has to feel that there is a sense of belonging.
Yeah. On that topic, I want to ask you, every time I've had a discussion with a capability center leader and we bring this topic up, which is about empowerment versus control.
Yeah.
Did you face this challenge as well that, there's that desire within the headquarters that there should be reasonable amount of control, but as value work gets executed in the capability competency center, expectation that more decision making should be local. And that it almost goes back to our first topic, paradoxical leadership. Unpack that if you encountered that along the way, and yeah.
It's a fine line, right? When you start up a center like this in the beginning stages, you may not have the confidence level quite as high as you have it with an organization that's near you, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And so the responsibilities on both sides to earn the right to let go of the controls and empower organizations. So it is kind of this yin and yang, how much do you push, how much do you pull on either side? I've seen when we had a lot of control in the beginning stages, because what we didn't want to do is redo the work that was done in a GCC that had happened in the beginning phases, where you had to just do it again, go back to the drawing board and do it again. And when you are in that kind of phase, you need to control it more. But
Mm,
the credibility has reached a point where you say, I trust that the work is going to get done in, high quality fashion, then you lean more into the empowerment. But it's a journey that comes with experience, with outcomes, right? Deliverable
yeah,
outcomes. And then leaders need to feel, yes, they're ready.
yeah,
And now I
yeah.
can empower and hold people accountable for the results, even in an empowerment space.
Astrid, we are also noticing a couple of trends that they start off with, let's say, a site leader role, where the first year or so there is a whole lot of focus on getting the site up and running, operational, getting all the foundation dry and working and all aligned. Over a period of time, the site leader role matures into a country managing director, if I can use that designation or title loosely. It sort of matures into that. But then we are also seeing that two other things happen, which is the local roles over a period of time morph into global roles that get executed either through in the same location, or there is mobility of leaders into other geographies, or for that matter, headquarters. And the second track that we are noticing is India or Asia itself develops as a market. It's like a P&L structure, because you're developing a talent here, the capabilities come here, there's more focus on the market, and as the broader India market increases or the Asia market increases, this becomes a market by itself. So you then move from a managerial or rather administrative role into a more P&L role. Is that something that one should start thinking about? Not obviously not initially, but that is a trend and over a 2 3 year period.
Without that, there is no long-term success of a GCC. People, as I said, need to feel I have a career opportunity here, whether that
Yeah,
means taking me to a different region, whether it means I become global in nature and not just isolated, in a center in India doing work for India or doing work for the world, but in India. It is essential that just like we treat talent development and career development opportunities elsewhere in the world, India needs to be included in that. And I have many
yeah,
examples where my former teammates have global roles or they have moved to different regions in the world. You know,
yeah,
that
yeah,
was not the case prior to 2000.
yeah,
Yeah. At the same time, I want to say that prior to 2000, there was also a mindset that wherever the center was, the headquarter was, I should say, the strategies were crafted centrally for different regions of the world.
yeah,
And
yeah,
those times are over because the needs of a product or a service are different from region to region. So being global is great, but you have to be local to understand the needs. You can't pretend that sitting in a region 5, 6, 7,000 kilometers away, you have the answer to what India needs.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
need people on the ground. And I have this from my own experience. When I traveled out in the field, the further I got from my main office, I learned new things that never surfaced, never hit my desk. And I learned new things, and I became so optimistic about all the things I was learning and seeing.
Absolutely. And the point you're making, we can very clearly see it even from, broad statistics that if you look at, let's say, I think that number is close to 1850, 1900 odd unique GCCs that are operating in India today. And you go back and evaluate and analyze what's the origin of these organizations, you can very clearly see that there are some regions which have taken, who were off the block much faster than some of the other regions. And but we also see that the ones that were slightly slow off the block, but they're catching up very quickly because it's almost with technology allowing integration of work in a much better way than, let's say, back in what was possible back in 2000. The scope is only becoming larger. Now, go to the other topic. We've talked about the business structure capability center as almost a business option, but he talked about the criticality of getting the talent or the people strategy right. Deeply aware of the fact that you've managed a remarkably high retention at the two organizations you've worked. You've developed a brilliant EVP, which is so critical in long term retention and development. Just walk us through how you, along with, let's say, the global leadership as well as local leadership, ended up achieving or creating an EVP that has been so successful for both, let's say, an Eaton, Danfoss, and how can other organizations within Nordics or the US can take advantage of it?
It wasn't always easy, I have to admit. First, it takes willingness by business leaders and division leaders and executives to see the opportunity. Willingness to see the opportunity and visualize what that opportunity can bring in terms of value. And then you have to make it happen. Where I saw good traction on the execution of this model was when I brought visitors along. And I
Mm.
was very, very intentional about this. I knocked on many people's doors. Come with me to India. Come, let me show you. And when people showed up and they saw with their own eyes what not just the capability, but the competence of the center is, they were blown away. I don't have
Right.
one person that says, yeah, I can do it somewhere else. It was absolutely a fact, but they had to see it with their own eyes. Yeah. And you need to be on the ground. You need to be able to talk to people, both internally and externally, to see what is possible. I brought people along. Immediately, they were thinking, what else can I do? How else can I expand? How else can I take advantage of this opportunity? Right?
Mm. Mm.
Um, Again, it comes back to, you can do very nice PowerPoints and explain the center, but when you're there on the ground and then see the results and the outcomes of it, it's a whole different ballgame. You feel the energy, you feel the ambition of the people. People want to succeed.
Right.
And when they have leadership support in their corner, they'll go the extra mile every day of